はい、皆さんおはようございます。2026年、令和8年、4月24日金曜日、朝のなんと4時13分です。なんでこんな早い時間にやんだよということですけども、この後ですね、ちょうどもう20分ないですね。トランプ大統領がビッグアナウンスメントをやるということで、ちょっとあらかじめですね、どういうものなのか、全くちょっと予想がつかない。今日金曜日ですね。で、金曜日に、向こうの時間の金曜日だけど、ちょっと早いんですよね。まだ、アメリカの方は遅れてますからね。日本より、時差があって。で、この時間に何やるのかなっていうんで、ちょっと、皆さんと共有しといた方がいいと思って、やってます。本来だったら5時になってね、そこからやればいいんだけど、昨日ももう本当緊急ライブ、靖国の静筆なる祈りということでやりました。なんか人に情弱とか言ってる人がいるけど、まあいいです、それはね。祈りにもルールがあるんで、で、いろんなところで、撮影禁止のところってのは少なくないんですよね。その意味を、皆さんと共有したくて、昨日夜やってますんで、聞いてみてください。まあ、なんていうかな、日本って本当に保守っていないんだなってもう、ほとんどあれですね。極左のリベラリスト。ほんでなんか一つルールを見つけたら、それをもう、なんていうかな、鬼の首取ったかのように動画上げてる人がいましたよね。写真自分撮って。ちょっともうやめてほしいですね。うん。保守のふりすんのもいいけども、別に何のふりだっていいんだけど、ちょっとひどすぎませんね。これ昨日からね、これが通れないんだよね。なんかステージ。うん、なるほど。なんか、プロ、要するにあれを言ってきてるんですね。コメントを。ちょっと消しといてくんのかな、これ。みんなのコメントが見れないんですよ。これで狭い窓から見てる。おはようございます、皆さん。それで、トランプさんがどう言うかと。で、中東のドバイーさんからですね、非常に興味深い記事が来ました。で、まずちょっとそれを共有しておきたいと思います。昨日ね、地震もありました。ちょっと、これですね。ご覧になれますかね。はい、これです。中東の友人からですね、記事が送られてきたんですけども、どういうものかというと、ちょっと渋谷で雨に降られて風邪ひいてからもなかなか治んないですね。これね、何かっていうと、マラッカ海峡ですね。アラビア語なんで、インドネシアがマラッカ海峡で関税を課そうとする試みは失敗に終わり、ホルムズ海峡のようなものにはならないだろうと。東南アジアの諸国は国際回路が直面するリスクと緊張からマラッカ海峡を中立化することに意欲的だからだと。マレーシアはこれらの問題への対応は単独の決定ではなくて、集団的な合意によって規律されるべきだと強調したと。マレーシアらしいですね。ここ、マラッカ海峡を、誰が管理するかと、海峡の政治家っていうか、利益化、これが急速に議論されてるわけですね。これなんでこんな、ちょっと、これですよね。はい。 輝度が落ちてました。見えます？あ、じゃあ、こっちじゃない。失礼。はい。これなんですね。で、本題のトランプ何を言うんだろうというと、国際的な海峡の自由通行がその圧力がトランプに向かっている可能性は高いですね。ホルムズ封鎖の段階的解除プラス条件付き和平枠組みの発表というふうに、普通は取りますね。でもね、それが予測つかないのがトランプさんなんですよね。で、これ、どこの新聞だったかな？インドの、そう、ヒンドゥスタンタイムズのライブ配信予約ですね。だから、Trump makes big announcement というタイトルで、今日の4月24日4時半、日本時間の、あと10分後に配信の予定だと。フェイクでなければですね。これがフェイクだったら迷惑な。でも、ヒンドゥスタンタイムズですからね。多分、この頃ね、本当に SNS 上の気をつけないと、パロディーのがあったりしますからね。アメリカ・イラン戦争の最新局面に関連するもの。で、現状、アメリカ・イラン戦争、オペレーション・エピック・フォーリーが進行中だと。3月初頭、トランプは、オペレーション・エピック・フォーリーを発動。イランのミサイル、海軍核発能力の破壊を目的とした大規模軍事作戦を開始したと。この間、直木マンさんのチャンネルで、おっしゃってましたね。山田さんが。あの方、優れた方ですね。4つなんですね。この、3つに加えて、いわゆるテロリストに支援するのやめろと。西側が言ってると、アメリカ、イスラエルが言ってるテロリストですね。ヒズボラとかシーア派とかね、ハマスとか、そういったものをテロリストとは向こうでは言わないんですよね。石持って抵抗するものと、戦車で踏み潰すものと、同じで議論していいのかっていうのは、ずっと2000年代の初めから僕は皆さんにも、問いかけてきたんですね。で、自分らに抵抗するのはテロリストと。それって俗人的な法の当てはめですよね。で、ちょっと振り返ってみると、3月初頭がそれで、4月8日にアメリカ、イランの間で2週間の停戦が成立したんだけど、ホルムズ海峡の支配権、レバノンの扱いをめぐり対立がついてるというか、もう対立させてるんですよね。アフリカの角のところ、そう、ソマリランド、あそこに分離独立をやらせてですね、それから、航海の方まで出てこれなくなったら、バベルマンデブ海峡も閉鎖されたらですね、もう本当万事休すですよね。で、4月21日、パキスタンの仲介要請を受けて、トランプは停戦を期限なしで延長すると発表したんですね。ただし、米海軍によるイラン港湾封鎖は継続中と。これタイムの記事ですね。そのホルムズ海峡の支配権、云々っていうのはアルジャジーラの記事ですね。で、今日のビッグアナウンスメントがどんなことを言うのかと、今から聞けばそっちの方が早いんですけど、イスラムバードでの第2回交渉の動向、これが一番だと思いますね。今こんな交渉やってるよと。イランが交渉に戻るか否か、新たな枠組み合意の可能性があるのか。そこですね。それから封鎖解除。さすがにアメリカやりすぎでしょう。ホルムズ海峡。自分らがああやって海峡を封鎖するっていうのはね、本当世界の中のルールだと思ってるわけでしょ。近隣国には領海 領土、領海、領空を守るっていうあれがあるけど、ここはアメリカからどんだけ遠いですか？それから停戦の崩壊、軍事攻撃再開発の発表。これ最悪のシナリオで、だけど、実はこっちを予想する人が結構いるんですよね。で、まさにホルムズ海峡危機リスクが現実化してるわけで、そうなのに日本じゃもうやっぱり自民党勝たせすぎなんですよ。中でもすごいですね、総理総裁が言ったことを政調会長が破る。これって反逆じゃないですか。もうだからね、解体しなきゃいけないんですよ。だからもう野党側もね、わかりました。昨日なんで中道の幹事長が言ったかって。高市さんを抑え込みに行ってんですよ。なんだっけ、消費税の食料品ゼロっていうこういうシャビーな目標だって。本当にシャビーですよ。そんなんやったってね、インボイスが固定化するだけなのに、それでもやらせないってわけですよ。で、こうするかのように野党、第一党かな、その幹事長が難しいっていうわけでしょ。お前は何を公約したんだと。もう二度と公約って言うなって、そう言われますよ。本当にひどいね。どこがコントロールしてるかっていうのもわかるじゃないですか。財務心理教でしょ。で、これね、ちょっと、さらに深めて、もうじき始まるかな。ビッグアナウンスメントとの接続、ちょっとどうなるかですね。これホワイトハウスのあれに行ってもいいんだけど、危ないね。ちょっと本物かどうかわかんないと。これだな。ザ・ホワイトハウス。これだ。
It was like Fort Apache. Dr. Oz would not answer his phone because he was calling all night long with the president on the line saying, get this done. And we brought in this amazing superstar, Chris Klomp, and he negotiated these. Lynn were the co-founders of this company of Regeneron. Their generosity, their idealism, their love of this country, and their compassion for these children who are injured. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Amazing. It is amazing. And you're right. I took a lot of heat to say 500, 600. But we also say sometimes 50%, 60%, different kind of calculation, 70, 80, and 90%. And people understand that better. But there are two ways of calculating it. But either way, it doesn't make any difference, whether it's 60, 70, or 80%. Nobody's ever heard of it. But it's also 500, 600, 700, depending on the way you want to look at it. So the way you word the calculation, it's either way. But Bobby, you're doing a fantastic job. We wanted somebody out of the box, and we got him, right? I would say we got him. And Bobby, he's a great guy, actually. So, Oz, how about saying a few words, please?
So this has been an unprecedented process. The president insisted we deal with one critical number you should all remember, which is that 1 in 3 Americans, when they go to the drugstore, after they see a doctor, will often leave empty-handed because they cannot afford the medications they're picking up. So affordability was the main word the president would use in many of those phone calls. He wanted it to be done fairly. We created a partnership with the pharmaceutical industry that was remarkable, and that it pushed 17 massive companies into the fold to try to do deals, again, unprecedented, that would allow us to claim that they were giving the most favored nation pricing to this country, to the American people. The president would not take no for an answer. We got 16 companies in, but not the 17th. How many times do you think we spoke about the 17th company?
Too much.
17. He said 17. He wanted to be 17. Whatever math you want to make, 16 is not 17. There's a reason that the 17th company was delayed. That's why that beautiful young boy you saw earlier. when you can save a child's hearing. And Mr. President, we talked about a lot of numbers. Secretary Kennedy quoted 100%, 600%. It's hard to beat free. Free is the best price, and that's the starting price with the president oftentimes, and that's what this wonderful company's agreed to. I want to applaud TrumpRx.gov, a remarkable site created by Joe Gebbia and Corstein has done a wonderful job with 0 glitches, serving more than 10 million individual unique Americans so far. And Mr. President, it's the fastest website I've ever seen. People love it because it works well. There's all kinds of additional elements being added to it, which we'll be talking about. But this website, as the president said, must be checked if you're going to buy a medication to make sure your price is the right price. It's a transparency site that is more rigorous than anything that I have seen. And Mr. President, your name is attached to it. And of course, that brings a tremendous amount of attention to it. We wanted it to be perfect. And the team who did that has accomplished that exactly. I want to applaud Chris. You cannot thank him enough, but it was also John Brooks, Hernandez. I see Beth back there, Theo, Rugel, a bunch of people who done a tremendous amount of work. And what I keep hearing from the pharmaceutical industry, maybe my colleagues can address in your comments, they never expected to have a counterparty as qualified in the federal government. If you're thinking of serving your nation, this is the right time to do it. This is the right administration to serve him because the president makes it easy to do the right thing. Gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Lutnick, Commissioner Macri.
いや、今から会見するんで、それは僕も分かってない。
Thanks for having us here on behalf of all Regeneron. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Len Schleifer, President and CEO of Regeneron, and with me is Dr. George Ankopoulos, President and Chief Scientific Officer of Regeneron. And together, well, I should pause there. I just realized something. I'm a president, he's a president, and all three of us grew up in Queens, New York.
Right.
So there's something maybe that was going on back then that was good. I'm not sure about now. So anyway, together we founded, George and I founded Regeneron and have built it over the past 4 decades. Today we are here. We were not pushed to be here. We are happy to be here because it marks an important step to lower drug prices. We've been arguing for more than a decade that other wealthy nations have been getting a free ride on American innovation. Just like in defense, but they've been getting in health defense a free ride. And now President Trump is putting policies in place to force these nations to pay their fair share, which will in turn lower prices for Americans. It's a good deal. But we have to remember this is just the beginning. The most important battle we all face is disease itself. We have to recognize how hard this fight is. For most major diseases that you or your loved one might suffer from, like Alzheimer's disease, to cancers, to genetic diseases, we are very far away from a cure. And we have to understand that discovering cures is perhaps the hardest scientific challenge humans undertake. Much harder than getting to the moon, not that we don't like that, but much harder than even getting to Mars or making the next generation of cell phones or electric cars. Hard like staring into the unknown for years, sometimes decades, with no guarantee that anything you're doing will ever make a difference for somebody like Travis. Regeneron is a great example of both the difficulty of the challenge, but also of the potential reward. We spent 25 years and billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars before we produced our first important medicine, or even earned our first profit. Maybe we should have been or might have been fired, but we stuck with it. Our relentless commitment to disruptive innovation ultimately turned us into one of the most productive biotechnology companies in history. We have produced, thanks to George and his team, new medicines at the rate of about 1 important medicine a year for the last 15 years, including truly miraculous advances impacting millions of lives. And we have 2 people here who are living proof. Mr. President, when you were ill with COVID, it was Regeneron's monoclonal cocktail that you affectionately dubbed the Regeneron. We love it. And that helped save your life. That was invented by George right here and his team. George?
Well, in addition to the president, we had a few minutes ago, Sierra's beautiful boy, Travis, who was born without the ability to hear, as you heard from Sierra. And the same company and the same dedicated team of scientists that helped save the president's life also delivered a first-of-its-kind gene therapy known as autonomy. So Travis can now hear his mother as
ジ
she
ンテラピー
tells
のことです
him,
ね。
telling him that she loves him. Hard to think of a greater gift. And just like you, Mr. President, who made our antibody treatment for COVID free for all Americans and thus saved many lives, we have made the decision, the unprecedented corporate commitment to provide this first-of-its-kind gene therapy for hearing loss free to all the children in the United States who can benefit from it. And we do this, why? To hopefully highlight the power of disruptive biotech innovation and all the good that it can bring to all of our lives and our health. But we have to remember, despite the miraculous advances like autonomy and like the Regeneron COVID treatment, we also have to highlight how far we have yet to go to address the many diseases that lack effective treatments. And the cures will not be coming unless we not only celebrate the advances of the biopharma industry to date, but we all work together, private sector, together with the government, to not only maintain America's position as world leaders in biotech innovation, but to actually bump up innovation and become even more disruptive, especially in a world where China is increasing investment and heavily subsidizing its biotech industry and reducing regulatory hurdles so as to try to displace America's leading position. President Trump's efforts to make drugs more affordable, as well as new FDA programs, such as the Commissioner's Voucher Program, that bring safe and effective new medicines like autonomy to patients more quickly. These are important steps. One additional important way that I've been talking to the administration about to maintain our leading position in the world is to create catalysts and accelerants for our industry and for the healthcare system, such as developing a national healthcare database linked to molecular data, including human sequence data, where Regeneron once again is a world leader. Without such big data sets, powerful new technologies such as AI, despite its potential, will not be as useful as it could be in the quest to develop new medicines and improve healthcare. The biopharma industry of America has and will continue to deliver miraculous breakthrough. You, Mr. President, and young Travis are living testaments of that. But many more lives need to be helped and saved. We need to attain a new
これ全然トランプが喋
level
んないで
of
すね。
disruptive innovation. We have to all work together to meet this challenge. Why? Because lives are at stake.
Let me briefly say something. I'm married to a lawyer. My son is a lawyer, but I'm going to talk about the Constitution, and I'm not an expert. But I know our Constitution lays out a vision on how America would out-innovate, out-produce, out-thrive every other nation on earth. And in it, you will find a description of a system built on incentive and reward. A system that says, take the risk, do the work, and you will share in what you create. That is why they enshrine patent protection directly in the Constitution, not as an afterthought, but as a founding principle. As Abraham Lincoln said, another great president, patents add the fuel of interest to the fire of genius. We must keep that fire burning. What we did here today will do that. Little Travis can now hear for the first time, and his potential is endless. Let's make sure he grows up in a country that never stops reaching for the next miracle. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Lynn. It's great to be with you again. Chris, could you say a few words, please?
Thanks, Mr. President. It's not lost on me that this year is America 250, and it's powerful, I think, to pause and remember that 250 years ago, a revolutionary free republic was born, and with it, the greatest innovation engine in the history of humanity. And we stand here today, 250 years later, getting to witness yet another groundbreaking innovation that doesn't just treat, but cures deafness in children. And because of this president and his policies around most favored nation, will enable families who are struggling and suffering with this affliction to have access to that groundbreaking therapy for free. Now, as the president mentioned, we've negotiated the 17th of 17 agreements. This represents 86% of the branded pharmaceutical drug market in the United States. But anyone who knows us knows that we're not done. That's a milestone. It's not the finish line. And so we have 3 core objectives that are next up. Number 1, and this is already underway, we are negotiating with the many hundreds of biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies representing that other 14% that are building the cures for tomorrow. To all those who are listening, I hope that we have proven that we are credible and reliable and trustworthy partners. We want to sit with you. We will listen to you. We will take the time to understand your businesses, not only as we negotiate on behalf of every American family for affordability, but also to ensure that you're best positioned to create the cures for tomorrow. Second, we continue our work on negotiating international trade agreements. 59 days after we stood in this office and President Trump, standing with Albert Bourla from Pfizer, announced the first of the 17 MFN deals, together with our colleagues from the Department of Commerce under Secretary Lutnick's leadership and from the U.S. Trade Representative's office under the leadership of Ambassador Greer, we negotiated a landmark agreement with the government of the United Kingdom in which they agreed to increase significantly the amount that they spend on branded pharmaceuticals for the first time in 26 years. That work continues with other countries. And third, we will continue our work with our partners in Congress to codify the principles that underpin these most favored nation deals so that these savings for American families and this innovation that is unleashed at the same time persists for decades to come. So that the 1 in 3 or 4 families that Dr. Oz mentioned, standing at a pharmaceutical counter or pharmacy counter right now, wrestling with the decision that no family should have to make of whether or not they can pick up their prescription because they can't afford it will no longer be the case. And at the same time, we know that there are roughly 20,000 known diseases in the world, and we have a treatment or a cure for fewer than a quarter of those. And so this president and his policies is not only safeguarding affordability for American families, but is ensuring that we continue to bet on American exceptionalism. We bet on innovation. We bet on the principles that have taken us to this place for 250 years for the next 250 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Great job you do. Maybe you want to talk about rescheduling while we're here, and just say what you're doing and the progress that you've made.
Right. Well, Mr. President, today is another promise made, promise kept day. On December 18th, you signed an executive order on increasing medical marijuana and cannabidiol research. And today we delivered on that promise. The acting attorney general this morning signed an order that moves into Schedule 3 medical marijuana products that are FDA approved or that are state licensed. This is a giant move forward to implement
アメリカとイギリスの間の、関税ゼロでこれが入れられると思います。
on these medical products. And just wanted everyone to know that 1, you make promises, you keep them. And 2, what does Schedule 3 mean for state licensed medical marijuana products? We will begin implementation right away of this order. It does not legalize marijuana. It makes it easy for the researchers to actually study and understand medical marijuana, especially in populations that are using it. We know that 1 in 10 seniors right now use medical marijuana in the past year. And they report that it really helps them, but we don't have the science or the understanding to guide the patients and the doctors. And so both patients and doctors are flying blind without knowing how they interact with other medications because the research has been difficult to do. And so your promise today says those state licensed medical marijuana products are now in Schedule 3, and we expect the research to significantly increase so that we can understand how to guide patients and doctors in this effort. To do an expedited hearing for the administrative hearing, Department of Justice, for all of marijuana to move into Schedule 3.
And the military is very happy about it, and a lot of people suffering from big problems, which this seems to be the best answer. They're very happy about it. So the rescheduling is starting, and that's a big thing, rescheduling. They kept saying, what about the rescheduling? And so great job. I appreciate it. I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Howard Kessler. He's one of the most successful men in the world, actually. And he had some medical difficulties, and he came upon this by accident in a way. And he said, wow, he had to go through a lot of different medications. And he said, this was the one that was much better than anything else. And so he experienced it. He didn't benefit by it other than from the standpoint that he lives a much better life now. So hopefully you don't need it, but if you do need it, I hear it's the best of all the alternatives. But I want to thank Howard Kessler and Michelle Kessler. They really pushed this very hard. These are two people, very straight arrows. They're not into marijuana. They're not into anything, but he found this answer, and he said, he's doing it for other people. And so Howard and Michelle, probably they're watching or they'll be hearing about it, but they worked very hard to get this done. And it's an honor, and you've done fantastically. You all have, and I appreciate it. And man who's doing an excellent job is Howard Letnick. He's in a little different sphere. He's not in the medical sphere, but he knows what it all means. And from Commerce, he's Secretary of Commerce. Howard, would you say a few words, please?
Sure. So in partnership with Bobby Kennedy and Memanaz and the whole team, when they do Most Favored Nation, we also ask the company to reshore and build their drugs here in America, because too many of our drugs, our key drugs for our health, are being made overseas. And in a conflict, we can't rely upon them. And I'm honored to say that our partners from Regeneron have agreed to reshore their production of pharmaceutical drugs. And this is exactly from your pharmaceutical tariffs. That's the point. So that means $448 billion of drug manufacturing is coming to America because of your tariffs, because of your pharmaceutical strategy. And we are proud to invite Regeneron to do this giant build in America, and all the rest of the pharmaceutical companies. They've committed to build in America because of your tariff policy and your strategy.
And because of the tariffs, it's been amazing, actually. We have Eli Lilly and Pfizer and all of the companies. We had, I guess, 7 of them here at one time, which was interesting to see, but they actually got along with each other very well. They stood right behind me, the biggest companies in the world, and they're all building, Eli Lilly is building, I think, 5 major plants, which without tariffs, they would have built none. I said, how many would you build without none? They were all making these products in other countries, a lot of other countries, actually, not just China, but a lot of other countries. And I think by the time I leave office, they'll be mostly operating these, they have an incentive to do them quickly, big incentive, like the tariffs go up if they don't. And remember, if they do them here, they don't have any tariffs to pay. It's an incredible incentive. And if they don't do them here, they have a very substantial tariff. So they get penalized. And it's bringing countries, not only drug companies, but car companies. AI is a different thing altogether, but even there, but the AI is, we're leading China in AI. We're leading everybody in AI. We're leading now in car companies. They're coming from Canada. They're coming from Mexico, Germany, Japan. They're pouring into our country because of our very smart, should have been done long ago by other presidents. We were the car capital of the world 50 or 60 years ago, and then they just started taking them away. We were the chip capital of the world, and now, Intel. And now they're coming back. All the chip companies are coming back. You may say a word about that, Howard, real fast, because what we're doing with chips are incredible. And all we're doing is saying at the end of a year and a half, 2 years, if you don't have your chip company, you're going to pay a tremendous tariff to put chips into this country. And they are building, I think we'll have close to 50% of the chip market very soon. Right now, we had nothing. We had virtually nothing. And they're coming in from Taiwan. They're coming in mostly from Taiwan because that's where chips are made, but mostly from South Korea, Taiwan, various other countries, but they're coming back to America. We're bringing them all back. It's a revolution. Nobody's ever seen what we've done. There's never been anything like what we've done. We have $18 trillion being invested. That's for 11 months. And the last administration had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We have in 11 months over $18 trillion. Howard, do you want to talk just for a second about the chip market, because it's explosive?
Sure. So you've got semiconductors, you've got leading edge
I'm good,
logic, you've got high bandwidth memory, and you have foundational chips. And America had a couple of points, 3 or 4% market share. And we are, of course, the biggest demand. And the president gave the order, let's get these factories, these fabs built in America. And our expectation is we will have $1 trillion of these fabs. These are factories. This is not the hyperscalers buying chips. This is literally the making of the chips, right? We had Micron, $200 billion, TSMC, $165 billion. The list goes on and on. We negotiated a great deal with Taiwan, $500 billion coming to America. We'll have $1 trillion of semiconductors. That's part of his $18 trillion, but it's foundational for us to take care of ourselves.
Thank you very much. We'll go off subject for a minute, but I think it's very
そうです
interesting.
ね。その
and
中
I hope
心
you
が
all will take a look, 'cause
TSMC で
it's
すね。
happening right now as we speak. But first, if you look outside, so we had flooring outside, we had slate, and it was coming to pieces. It's been there since the early 1940s. And it's a path to the Oval Office. It's a path to the West Wing, and it was terrible. It was broken, bad shape. The whole White House has been in bad shape. It's right now in better shape than it is. I think the day they built it, this is better right now. But we're putting magnificent new granite. It's called charcoal. It's a black granite against the white, beautiful white walls. We've stripped all of the paints off. We had 200 years of paint, and we've redone it, and it's beautiful. And you can see the building, but you can also see the columns, everything else. But we're replacing, and they're working right outside. If the press wants to go and take a look at what they do, really pros. You see the way large slabs of black granite. Granite is rated as this particular granite over a 1,000,000-year life. As an example, concrete gets rated for about 200 years if you get very high grade. This is over. It's rated over. Can you imagine? Nature produces something better than you can make. So it's very interesting. It's a beautiful job they're doing. And it's highly polished granite in the areas you don't walk on. And it's called flame finished, the areas that you do walk on, there's no slip. So it's a beautiful job, and it's going up nice. And if you want to take a look outside the window, so that's replacing a stone that was here from the early 1940s, a little before that. And you'll see the ramp too. We're keeping the ramp. That was for FDR. He needed a ramp, as some people would know. And in his honor, we're leaving it. I wanted to leave it. It means something. The other thing that we're doing that's taking place right now is the Lincoln Memorial has a beautiful reflecting pond or lake. They call it a pool, lake, and pond. Everything is different, but the word reflecting is a good term. It was built in 1922, and it was built out of granite and various stones on the bottom, and it never looked great because it's not really meant to be a stone that's underwater for that much of a period of time. It's about 1.5 to 2 feet
世界大
deep.
恐慌から
You all know it well. That's where Martin Luther King gave his great speech, and he had 1 million people. And
この
I
前
had
本
the
当
same
喋り
exact
続け
crowd,
そうだ
maybe a
よね。
little bit more, but they said I had 25,000 people on July 4th. I have pictures of Martin Luther King's crowd, my crowd, it's the exact same, everything, but it was 70 years difference. The exact same crowd, but I actually had more people, but that's okay. They gave him 1 million people. They said 1 million people. I had 25,000 people. So, but these are the things that you get with we had on July 4th, a few years ago, first term. So you have this reflecting lake pond is incredible, but it was terrible. The condition, you all know it. A friend of mine came from Germany to see me, and he said, "Oh, we went over. It's so sad. What's sad?" This is a number of months ago. He said, "It's filthy, dirty. The water's disgusting looking. It's not representative of the country." And I said, "Well, I'm going to have to go take a look because, Secret Service doesn't let you just walk around for freely, actually." And I went over there with Secret Service in tow. And I said, "Isn't that a shame? It's terrible." And so they had bids from the Biden administration, Sleepy Joe, and they had bids for years. They were going to do something to fix it, but they never got it done. And it's so important for our country. Everybody knows this. It covers the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial. It's in between. It's 2,200 feet. That's taller than any building in the world if you lay it down on its side. Think of it, 2,000. That's a long, over 2,000 feet long. Such would be many swimming pools, many, many, many stacked up together. But it would be the equivalent of the tallest building in the world, plus laid down on its side. So it's very big. It's very wide, actually. It looks narrow because it's so long. And so the pricing was coming in over the years, but it came in sort of recently that it was going to cost $301 million to fix it. It was going to take 3.5 years. So they had to take all the granite out, which is there again, 1922. And it was leaking like a sieve. You couldn't keep water, couldn't keep anything. Granite's not the right stone for that, right stone for that, but not for that. And I said, you know, I have an idea. It's 301 million. It was going to take 3.5 years. So remember those numbers, 301 million. This is a business study. And it was going to take 3 to 3.5 years. And over the years as a developer, I've probably built more than 100 swimming pools, different buildings I built. And I have some really good pool builders. I also had some really bad ones, but we took care of them. They didn't last too long, Howard. But I've had some really good ones, some very talented people, great people. I have such great respect for contractors that are good and such disdain for contractors that are bad. They charge you more money and they give you a bad job, but we don't accept it. But over the years, I've had 3 or 4 really good ones. I took the best of the 3. I had all 3 go, but I ended up taking the best. And I said, would you take a look at this? It's 2,200 feet long. He said, what do you want me to look at? I said, have a little swimming pool. Think of it as a swimming pool. I said, oh, how big is it? I said, 2,200 feet by 167 feet wide. He said, that's the biggest swimming pool. He said, I've been doing this for a lot of years, sir. I've never heard of a pool like that. I said, well, you'll see, it's a reflecting pool. And very famous, very big signal, and very important for Washington, D.C., where we, by the way, have almost no crime, I have to say. That's maybe more important than talking about this. We have a crime down from a tremendously high, one of the worst in the country. We have almost no crime. People are walking around, restaurants are opening all over the place, and places bustling. But that makes us even more important. So instead of being a dirty, disgusting place where garbage was in it and everything else, and I want to give Doug Burgum incredible credit because he was involved, the Secretary of the Interior. He was involved right from the beginning. I called him, I said, Doug, I'm getting a lot of complaints about the condition of this. What do you think? And he went over, he studied it, and he came back with some ideas. But I said, you know, Doug, I have a guy who's unbelievable at doing swimming pools. Up the road, we have a club. We have an Olympic-sized swimming pool. He did it 20 years ago, and it's perfect to this day. So I asked him, I said, I have an idea. I'm going to send my contractor over and take a look. He looked at it. He called me up. He said, so we can do something on it. He said, it's perfect, actually. He said, it's really decaying and it's a terrible condition. But if you would, I'd like to work 2 weeks on cleaning it up, which is, if you see right here, we'd like to repoint and fix some of the joints. It won't matter because we're putting a substance over the top, but it's nice to have a nice surface. And he said, it'd take me 2 weeks. And if you don't mind, then I'd like to pour the latest and greatest filament or material, which is essentially a pool surface, but it's industrial grade pool. And he said, what color would you like, sir? I said, well, what about turquoise, like in the Bahamas? He said, well, this is Washington, sir. We can give you turquoise, but why don't you try, like, we have a color. It's called American flag blue. I said, that's the color I like. He talked me into it very easily. So he said, that's the color I like. So he came in, and remember, 3.5 years, you have to take all the granite out. Then you have to put all brand new granite in. Take years to do it. Over 300 million. Our job will take 1 week. It will cost about $1.5 million. And people said, wow. And here's the only difference, because somebody said, well, the difference is, the difference is this is much better. This will last 30, 40, 50 years. And if it didn't, you do it again quickly if you want. So it's being done now, and I think you'd find it really amazing to go take a look. So here it is. You see the trucks. He's got scrapers and all sorts of equipment to make the stone as good as possible without removing it. So we're using the existing surface, so we don't have to spend millions of dollars in demolition. And he said, much better to leave the stone than it is what's underneath. They're afraid to look. And so you see it's beautiful, clean. It's ready to be taken care of. Here's a sign that we put. And so Doug Burgum and myself are involved in that. But when you take a look at the surface, we have it in good shape. And they just started today putting down the material. It's a machine. It lays it very evenly, beautiful. It goes from one side to the other. It'll take about 3 days. And you're going to end up with a beautiful, beautiful reflecting pool the way it's supposed to be. much better than it ever was, actually. It'll stay clean. We even have robots that go in it and they ride around the bottom and they clean it like a swimming pool, but these are a much higher level. This is industrial grade and it's really beautiful. So you can have a beautiful pool and you'll have it for July 4th.
ちょっとこの辺でやめます。これ、後から聞いてもよかった内容で、どういうものかっていうのは、翻訳してあげておきますね。ジェミに、記録してますよね。
承知しました。ここまでの内容をまとめ直しておきますね。何か別のことでお手伝いできることがありますか？
はい。まとめ直したやつをできるだけ英語に忠実に翻訳しといてください。それから原文の英語もね、出しといてください。まあ、聞きやすい英語だったから、特にトランプさんもわかりやすい。なんとかな、誰でもわかる単語しか使わないですね。
かしこまりました。元の英語の発言を中立に翻訳し、原文の英語も載せておきますね。確かに非常にわかりやすい英語と使われていました。他に何か確認したいことなどはありますか？
だいたいこの40何分の間の主な趣旨を言ってみてください。もうそれでここから離脱します。
承知しました。この会見では、トランプ大統領が製薬会社リジェネロンと提携し、薬の価格を下げるための合意を発表しました。また、アメリカ内での半導体生産を強化するため、工場の建設を進めていることや、リンカーン記念堂のリフレクティングプールの改修、さらに中国との経済競争などについても触れられています。大まかにはこのような内容でしたね。長い時間お疲れ様でした。
ありがとうございました。もうイランのことだと思った。違うんだよね。
どういたしまして、思わぬ話題の広がりで意外な発見があったかもしれませんね。
いや、確かにそうだよね。中国との関係はこの後喋るんで、そこはフォローしとかなきゃいけませんね。
そうですね。中国との関係については、経済競争の観点からも重要なポイントになりますので、しっかりと把握しておくと良いかと思います。他に気になる点などはありますか？
いや、原稿をちゃんと出しといてね。はい。
かしこまりました。翻訳した原稿と原文の英語、どちらも後ほど提出いたします。他に何かご要件はございますか？
いや、ありがとう。ここで一回、締めるね。
どういたしまして、またいつでもお声掛けください。
音声が低いんですよね。はい。中国とのトランプの向き合い方ですけど、それにだけちょっと触れて、次へ行きたいと思います。全く予想が外れた。それまではですね、やっぱりコンテインなんですよ。コンテインだから、ねえ、もうその言語で喋ってると元の言語も、コンテインは、封じ込め。そう、封じ込め。で、もう封じ込めることをやめたわけですね。やめたっていうか諦めた。だって小さな風呂敷で大きな岩は封じ込められないでしょ。で、トランプの周りが今言ってるのは何かっていうと、その戦略的な、利益をそこからもらうということなんですよね。戦略的に利益を分け合うと言った方がいいか。それなんですよね。じゃあ、半分寝てた。失礼しました。早く起きすぎた。まあでもね、興味深いっちゃ興味深いですね。ああやって製薬メーカーと契約して、それで、ねえ、例のことをバシッて言ってくれるかなと思ったけど、まあいいです。それじゃあ、一回閉じます。うん。